iconic Las Vegas Strip has left 2 persons dead and 6 others hurt.
The police say the attacker used a large knife with a long blade and apparently stabbed his first victim without warning. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Bridge Yelago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will mark his first 100 days in office with a higher approval rating, as majority of the public believe he's on the right track. Big-time oil price adjustments expected next week following OPEC's decision to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. Number of dead in a nursery attack in Thailand rose to 38 as the country mourns the tragedy. A truck plunges off a cliff in eastern Guatemala, killing 17 passengers. And Iglesia ni Cristo conducts Care for Humanity in Cleburne, Texas.
October 8 marks the first 100 days of the Marcos administration. It is the most anticipated day among Filipinos as they would weigh the performance of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s administration in running the country. But what rating will the public give President Marcos? Madeline Villar Moratillo has the story.
Approve and very good. The majority of the people interviewed by Net25 News has this to say in the first 100 days of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Richard commended the president's actions to address concerns on the supply shortage of sugar. He said after Marcos directed government agencies, it resulted in the discovery of thousands of sacks of sugar embargoed and hoarded in warehouses. Jesse, for his part, is contented with the Marcos administration's plan for overseas Filipino workers or OFWs. Despite criticisms of the foreign trips of the president, Renato said it's a big deal to ensure that investments would come into the country. Earlier, the president said that his successful state visits in Indonesia and Singapore resulted in $14.6 billion investment pledges. These are in the sectors of renewable energy, data centers, e-commerce, broadband technology, startups, government housing, and agriculture. Marcos vowed that all his foreign trips would be fruitful and that the public would feel its effect on the economy. Madeline Villar Moratillo reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The House of Representatives leadership gave President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. a passing mark for the first 100 days of the administration. Vin Pascua has the details.
The government is on the right track as President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. marks his first 100 days in office. House Speaker Martin Romualdez, in an ambush interview, particularly mentioned the preparations made by the Marcos administration in the 2023 proposed national budget amounting to 5.268 trillion pesos. Romualdez said the first national budget of the administration addresses concerns on the post-pandemic recovery with its 8-point economic agenda. Romualdez added that Congress supports the fiscal framework of President Marcos, so all the economic priority bills that he laid down with them will be passed by the House of Representatives. Romualdez also recognized the foreign trips of President Marcos to Indonesia, Singapore, and the United States, where he succeeded in closing in multi-billion peso foreign investments for the country.
Swift recovery despite all of the pressures in the global economic community. So we're very excited for this administration and on the part of the House. We support him wholeheartedly and we wish him Godspeed and congratulations to the first 100 days.
I am Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Gearing towards his first 100 days in office, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. received a high approval rating on how the administration managed current issues. In the latest Pulse Asia survey released on Thursday, 78% of the people are content with how the administration controls the COVID-19 pandemic and its response to calamities. Based on the survey, 69% also approve of the government's handling of peace, and 68% are pleased with its support for the overseas Filipino workers. Pulse Asia said the Marcos administration receives majority approval ratings on 11 of the 13 issues assessed in the September 2022 survey. Meanwhile, Trade and Industry Secretary Alfredo Pascual has defended President Marcos from critics, claiming he only engaged in partying during the first 100 days of the administration. Pascual said the president works non-stop, and it resulted in more investments from his foreign trips in Indonesia, Singapore, and the United States.
Well, sa trade, we have, for example, during the trips, the presidential visits, we have been able to talk to a number of businesses in the U.S., also Singapore and Indonesia, and we have gotten investment pledges from these companies that we have conferred with. So that's, I think, significant, and it's a matter of following up the implementation of their projects. A number of them have already started.
The Department of Education hailed the resumption of face-to-face classes as one of the biggest achievements in the first 100 days of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. According to DepEd spokesperson attorney Michael Powa, many students were not able to learn during the last 2 years because of the pandemic. The Philippine Statistics Authority said the resumption of in-person classes has created jobs, particularly in the primary and secondary levels. Powa asserted that despite the face-to-face classes, they will not disregard the precautions against the COVID-19 virus. If fact, the DepEd has issued a new order regarding the health protocols that will be implemented inside the school to ensure the safety of the teachers and children against the virus.
The Department of Education is now allowing learners to take off their face masks in open spaces within the school premises. Under Department Order Number 39, signed by Education Secretary and Vice President Sara Duterte, wearing a face mask is still mandatory inside classrooms, laboratories, and other enclosed areas. However, the order said that in activities that need to take off the face mask, a face shield could be an alternative. DepEd spokesman attorney Michael Powa said the directive was made effective last September. In a statement, the Department of Health said the DepEd order is in accordance with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s executive order on voluntary wearing of face masks in low-risk settings. Meanwhile, the DepEd continues studying if all schools can comply with the full implementation of in-person classes amid reports of virus infections among learners and faculty members.
Nasa 90% na po talaga yung in-person component, meaning that either 5-day in-person or blended learning. Kasi pag naman po sa blended learning, talagang may in-person classes na. Ngayon, dun sa data ngayon, kung sino talaga yung kayang mag-face-to-face by November, at hindi pa po talaga ako makapagbigay ng informasyon tungkol dyan habang ginagawa ko po yung report.
Not so good news for motorists. Take a look. A big-time oil price hike is expected next week due to the oil production cut of oil-producing and exporting countries, or OPEC, and the high demand in countries as winter comes. The fuel price adjustment has ended the series of rollbacks in the past 5 weeks. Oil Price Management Bureau Director Rino Abad says there is a high indication that a big-time Price adjustment will happen on Tuesday, October 11. The estimated adjustments are from 440 to 470 per liter of diesel, 40 to 70 centavos per liter on prices of gasoline, and 2 pesos and 49 centavos per liter on the price of kerosene. Abad said the projected price adjustments would still change tomorrow afternoon. The adjustment is influenced by OPEC's decision to cut its oil production by 2 million barrels per day amid high demand for fuel in cold countries.
Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, Chairperson Attorney Cheloy Garafil resigns from her post and accepted the officer-in-charge position at the Office of the Press Secretary. In a statement, Garafil said she resigned this Friday as chairperson of LTFRB and accepted the offer to help in the Office of the Press Secretary as its Undersecretary and Officer-in-Charge, or OIC. She added that this is a great honor and privilege as she thanked President Marcos Jr. for the opportunity to serve his administration and the people. Prior to her appointment to LTFRB, Garafil is a former journalist and worked under the Department of Justice, the Office of the Solicitor General, and the House of Representatives. In an interview with Palace reporters Thursday, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said he will be announcing early next week the replacement for resigned Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles. The president told Palace reporters that the next press secretary should be friends with the media.
The National Capital Region Police Office and Special Investigation Task Group LAPID released the photo of a person of interest in the killing of broadcaster Percival Mabasa, or more popularly known as Percy Lapid. The reward for any information on the killing of Lapid has also increased to 1.5 million pesos. Mark Gabriel has the details.
It was 8:03, a Monday evening of October 3, when a CCTV caught the image of a man walking in front of Las Piñas City Hall, 7 minutes before the shooting of radio broadcaster Percy Lapid. The markings on the t-shirt and jacket matched that of the gunman, caught by the dashcam behind the victim's car, seconds before the victim was shot. Footage from the dashcam also caught the image of the driver of the motorcycle, who was seen sitting on the sidewalk and appeared to be talking with someone over his phone. Before Mabasa's car passed, the man suddenly stood up, walked to his motorcycle, and followed the victim.
So, nakita natin, very suspicious yung galaw niya. And then, during the time of that shooting, doon din nakita yung klarong-klaro na description niya na nakasakay doon sa motorcycle during that shooting incident.
Personally, ito lang opinion ko. Itong tao ito isang professional hitman. As you could see very well from the evidence. Paano siya humabol, 2 bala lang, tapos sa ulo.
The gathered videos are still under the process of enhancement to help the authorities ascertain the suspects' faces and identities. The authorities also increased the reward for any information on the killing of Lapid to 1.5 million pesos.
Malapit na ho ito, konti na lang ito. Sa taong itong nasa larawan naman na ito lang masasabi ko. Marami na nakakaalam sa iyo, marami na magsusumbong. Siguro sumuko ka na. Napaka-importante na sumuko ka sapagkat pag-isipan mo yung mga nag-utos sa iyo, baka may gawing masama sa iyo. Ang pinakamagandang gawin mo, sumuko ka.
Mabasa's family is pleased with the progress of the case as well as the authorities' decision to increase the cash reward. Yet they believe that a faster resolution to the case can happen if President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. speaks about the tragic incident.
Ang hinahabol natin dito yung hustisya. Hinahabol natin ay madala ang mga salarin sa korte. At kung kinakailangan, pati ang mastermind dito. Alam natin, nakahanda tayo. Nakahanda ang aming pamilya na harapin na ito isang mahabang proseso. But still, igigit natin na mas maganda na makita natin mismo ang Pangulo na nasa ibabaw ng lahat ng pagkumpas sa prosesong gagawin natin.
The authorities clarified that aside from the dashcam and CCTV footage, they have other evidence and information against the suspects that can help them to resolve the case. Mar Gabriel, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Coming up, Thailand mourns the death of at least 38 victims of nursery deadly attack. U.S. President Joe Biden said Russian President Vladimir Putin was not joking about using tactical nuclear weapons. And Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman insists Moscow never refused to engage in peace talks. Stay tuned for more stories around the globe when Mata ng Agila International returns.
And Moments, hindi lang artista, host, entrepreneur, chef, kundi wushu athlete din ang makakakwentuhan natin ngayong linggo.
Tutok na sa Moments dahil marami akong ichichika sa inyo tungkol sa buhay ko in and out of showbiz.
Kita-kits tayo mga ka-moments every Sunday at 4 to 5 p.m. Dito lang sa Net25.
Panalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's get together sa Net25.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
More news here on Mata ng Agila International. Flags at the Government House of Thailand in Bangkok were placed at half-mast a day after a former policeman murdered nearly 24 children in one of the kingdom's worst mass killings. The attacker was identified as Panya Kamrab, a sacked policeman who used a gun and knife to kill at least 38 people, including his wife and child, before ending his life.
ไม่รู้จักไม่เคยรู้จักมาก่อนไม่รู้ว่าอยู่บ้านไหนด้วยซ้ำแล้วเขาก็ไม่รู้ว่าเขาเครียดอะไรให้กับเด็กเขายังไม่ทำอะไรเลยเขามีโอกาสที่จะได้เติบโตไปมากกว่านี้อนาคตเขายังไม่ได้เยอะกว่านี้
Weeping and grief-stricken mourners who are dressed in black gathered outside the nursery to offer white flowers to honor their loved ones who were shot dead. Being surrounded by officials, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha was also seen in the nursery laying flowers to pay respect to the victims. Meanwhile, remaining survivors of the deadly attack were brought to the Nonghua Lampu Hospital, where hopeful relatives wait for them to be treated.
A road accident in Guatemala has claimed at least 17 lives. The accident happened when a pickup truck plunged off a cliff in eastern Guatemala. 2 of the dead were children, while another 13 people are injured. The victims were impoverished villagers who were on their way to town to pick up benefits under the UN's World Food Program. Mayor Ramon Diaz of the town of Hocotan says the truck was transporting 30 people. It had stopped on a slope to pick up more passengers, but started rolling and fell off a cliff.
Violence on the Las Vegas Strip has left 2 people dead and 6 others injured. The unprovoked stabbing rampage happened shortly before the lunch hour Thursday in a spot usually crowded with visitors. Police say the attacker used a large knife with a long blade and apparently attacked his first victim without warning. The suspect then ran down the street, attacking several other people. Of the 6 injured, 3 are in critical condition. Bystanders gave chase as the attacker fled, but was eventually intercepted by a security guard and police officers. The suspect has been described as a Hispanic man in his 30s and believed to be not a local resident. Parts of the Las Vegas Strip, which is home to major tourist destinations, remain closed Thursday.
His head haloed by a whirlwind of mosquitoes, Amir Hussain stands on the roof of his home in southern Pakistan, surveying the fetid floodwaters all around. The standing water has curdled into a pestilent soup breeding malaria, cholera, and dengue, just 4 months after the start of record monsoon rains linked to climate change. As dusk arrives in Hussain's submerged village in Dadu district of Sindh province, so do the bugs and the gamble that they will infect his wife and 2 children. Hussain complained not just about their torn nets, but also about the mosquitoes biting a lot, making them sick. His brother, who shares his home, has already ventured off the roof to treat his sick children at the hospital with borrowed cash. Hussain's infant son has also fallen ill. The United Nations has warned Pakistan of a second wave of catastrophe, with the risk that deaths from waterborne disease and malnutrition will outstrip the 1,700 drowned and electrocuted in the initial cascade.
3 people died in Indonesia after a flood in the capital Jakarta streamed into a school and caused a wall to collapse. Multazam Lisandra, police chief of Silandak district in South Jakarta, said the cause of the collapse needs to be investigated further. Yet the initial assumption is that there is so much pressure from the overflowing river that pushed and knocked down the school's wall. Local media reported the 3 dead were students at the MTSN 19 school. However, the police official did not confirm the identity of the victims. Footage on social media showed some teenage students crying in panic while trying to evacuate from the school submerged in waist-deep waters. The Greater Jakarta metropolitan region houses about 30 million people and is regularly hit by floods in the rainy season.
The World Health Organization confirms the death of another health worker in Uganda. This brings the total number killed by the Ebola virus in the country to 10. WHO representative to Uganda, Dr. Jonas Tegin Walder-Mariam, says they have seen several districts affected with over 36 cases.
We have seen 5 districts being affected with 44 confirmed cases. And in the last 48 hours, we also have 1 additional confirmed case, bringing the total to 44. Have confirmed days of 10. Unfortunately, of the 44 cases confirmed, we have 10 health workers which has been infected.
Gambian Red Cross officials have launched an urgent door-to-door campaign collecting cough syrups that the health ministry has linked to an outbreak of kidney failure that has killed 66 children. An investigation that began in July and is still ongoing has also pointed to the E. coli bacteria as a possible cause. Nevertheless, health authorities also ordered the recall of medicines containing paracetamol or promethazine syrup. The region's Medical Research Council said they admitted a child with acute kidney failure. After the child's death, they were able to confirm that she had taken one of the suspected drugs that came from a pharmacy within the Gambia. The council said the drug has been identified as containing a significant amount of a toxin that damages kidneys irreversibly.
U.S. President Joe Biden said Russian President Vladimir Putin is not joking when he talks about the potential use of tactical nuclear weapons, biological or chemical weapons. Biden claimed that Putin is not fooling around because the Russian military is, as others say, significantly underperforming. At a fundraiser for the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, the POTUS also said that the risk of Armageddon is at the highest level since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, as Russian officials kept on referring to the possibility of using tactical nuclear weapons after suffering massive setbacks in the 8-month invasion of Ukraine. While experts say any nuclear attacks would likely be relatively small, Biden warned that even a tactical strike in a limited area would still risk triggering a wider conflagration.
Responding to RT's question, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova commented on Moscow's stand on peace talks with Ukraine. Zakharova strongly said that Kyiv has no interest in talks with President Vladimir Putin. She also claimed that Ukraine thought it could win on the battlefield and that Russia would abandon its declared goals.
I've already mentioned this since the very beginning of this briefing. I may remind you that in February, Ukrainian side initiated peace talks within several months. We responded to the offer. We engaged in the talks, but later these talks were stopped by the Ukrainian side.
She said that Putin has reached out to President Volodymyr Zelensky a couple of times, but he refused to go back to the negotiation table. Zakharova concluded that the lives of Ukrainians probably don't matter to Kyiv or the West.
World leaders from across Europe met in Prague for the inaugural summit of a new forum aimed at bringing the continent together in the face of Russia's aggression, with Ukraine's president urging more support for Kyiv.
An important topic on the agenda. This is, of course, the war in Ukraine, the importance to remain united, to remain firm in support of Ukraine, with financial support, with political support, with military support. It's also important to be very firm to condemn the Russian aggression. We do not recognize, we will never recognize the sham referenda and illegal annexations.
The first gathering of the European political community at the Grand Prague Castle complex brought together a disparate grouping of 44 nations, from the Caucasus in the southeast to Iceland in the northwest. Russian President Vladimir Putin, who was not invited, loomed over the meeting as discussions focused on the economic and security turmoil sparked by his invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, currently overseeing a counteroffensive against Moscow's forces, urged Europe to punish Moscow through increased arms supplies and security guarantees in a video link address. The experimental format, a brainchild of Macron, was built as a new platform for political coordination. However, there were few concrete outcomes beyond a photo of the assembled leaders. Next up, IMF chief urges action as global recession risks rise. Iglesia ni Cristo's Care for Humanity continues in Cleburne. And Iglesia ni Cristo's Unity Games makes a comeback in the United Kingdom. Find out more about these stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Pre-net. Wala pong monthly yan. Ito po, pre-net. Kaya po napili po ng only po sa Instant Award po namin. Pwede po ba natin i-showcase yung outfit natin? Oh!
Mayroong isang babae na malapit ng ikasal.
Ano yung baby ko?
Papayag, bakit?
Labas mo na!
Akin to. Ako may-ari nito.
Tol, yung baby. Akin yun. Matagal ko nang pagmamayari yun. Akin na yan.
Ayan, sa'yo na yan, ha?
Baby.
Napapunta po kami ng office namin para kukunin na po yung ililipat nyo ng mga gamit.
Para saan? Wala naman akong service na tinawag.
Yes po, lipat bahay po kami. Sir, unahin daw po namin yung mga malalaking gamit.
Wala naman akong malaking gamit.
Mga malalaking.
Napipikon ako sa'yo.
Beer tayo, sumakit ang ulo ko, sumakit ang bewang ko. Sex bomb, sex bomb, sex bomb.
Oh no, it's beer only. Sa Net 25.
Tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's get together. Sa Net 25.
IMF Chief Kristalina Georgieva urges global policymakers to take concerted action to avoid a dangerous new normal. Risks of a worldwide recession are driven ever higher by repeated economic shocks. IMF's managing director says it is critical to stabilize the global economy by addressing the most immediate challenges, including rampant inflation.
That the risks of recession are rising. At the IMF, we are calling for early and joint action to regroup and to rethink how can we adopt a more proactive, precautionary mindset than we had in.
Georgieva warns the process will be painful and that if central banks move too aggressively to tamp down price pressures, it could trigger a prolonged economic downturn. Finance ministers and central bank governors from more than 180 nations will gather next week in Washington for the first fully in-person meeting of the International Monetary Fund and World Bank since 2019, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Education workers in the Canadian province of Ontario voted 96% in favor of a strike. These include administrators, counselors, teachers, aides, and custodians. Joshua Santillana in Toronto tells us what their demands are.
The Ontario School Board Council of Unions, OSBCU, and the Canadian Union of Public Employees, CUPE Ontario, has released overwhelming results this week for an education workers' strike vote. Out of 55,000 education workers under CUPE in Ontario, nearly 45,500 voted yes to a strike. That is 96.5% of CUPE education workers who are asking for fair wages in the province. Education workers are paid an average of only $39,000 a year, or about $20 per hour. This is below the average living wage in the Greater Toronto Area of about $22 per hour. Many education workers are working additional jobs to make ends meet. The province has offered 33 to 53 cents pay increase to the lowest paid education workers. Laura Walton, president of OSBCU, calls the offer insulting, especially during a 7% inflation period. Ontario's Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, has expressed his opinion about the strike, emphasizing that concerns should be about kids and parents who want their children in classrooms. Many Ontarians rebutted, including former politician and Order of Canada recipient Sherry DeNovo, asking Lecce if he would be willing to earn the wage of what a CUPE education worker makes. Joshua Santillana, Toronto, Ontario, Mataan ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Millions of Californians will get up to $8,050 starting this Friday as part of the state's middle-class tax refund. Here's Mylene Cusio to tell us more.
Gas prices are rising, and with food prices soaring, many Californians are feeling the impact in their wallets. Relief is here with one-time payments to residents starting this week until January of next year. Payments will be issued via direct deposit for the first round of payments from October 7th through November 14. The second round will be paid via debit card from October 25 to January 15, ranging from $400 to $1,050 for couples filing together and $200 to $1,050 for individuals. The amount depends on adjusted gross income levels from filed 2020 state tax returns. Known as the Middle Class Tax Refund, California Governor Gavin Newsom announces this financial assistance being given from the state.
On October 7th, up to 23 million Californians will begin to benefit from the nation's largest state tax refund, some $9.5 billion. The first round of these payments, up to $1,050, will be direct deposited to Californians, helping with rising costs from, well, the grocery store to the gas pump. We're doing our best to help offset rising costs.
To be eligible, you must be a California resident and not be claimed as a dependent. Mylene Cusio, Los Angeles, California, Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Cleburne, a small suburb town, is among other cities in Texas fighting poverty. Reports show that 1 out of 6 residents currently live below the poverty line. But residents would receive a lifeline as Iglesia Ni Cristo's humanitarian efforts would continue providing help to those in need. Janina De La Paz Rufino has the story.
Well, you'd have to include Lake Pat Cleburne because the lake is beautiful. There's just some rich culture.
Setting down in Cleburne, Texas for Theresa Kaufman was a life-changing experience, especially for being a teacher for 43 years. In owning this building, the Kaufman Leadership Academy, her focus was helping children with specific learning needs.
I worked in a small private school for kids with learning differences.
And while battling to help children with learning differences, the pandemic would also add more concerns.
And so I told the families, I said, look, we're going to go remote if they do that. We'll keep working with your kids, we'll keep teaching, but I don't know what's going to happen.
And then the threat of closing her school.
And electricity prices went off the chart. And I just couldn't keep up because we don't collect tuition in the summer. And they threatened to close to shut us off.
And with just a week before having to close her doors, Theresa would receive a monetary donation that would not only help her doors open, but also extend this same help to other charitable groups and even to the surrounding residents of her school in Cleburne.
Hello and good afternoon to all. Thank you very much. Is everyone having a good time?
I appreciate that our name is connected to your good work.
The Felix Y. Manalo Foundation is the charitable arm of the Church of Christ. Its mission is to provide opportunity and equity for individuals in different communities, promote education, ensure socio-economic well-being, promote environmental awareness, and health improvement for everyone.
The Good Work of Care for Humanity project, now in Cleburne, ready to provide timeless assistance for the needs of its residents. Providing free medical services and care packages for nearby residents like Leah. It was a moment of relief for the struggles she has been facing.
And I really enjoy what you guys are doing for the community of Cleburne, for our fire department, the education, the school programs. And so I'm losing my home. And all my family's in California. But God has blessed me with a job, but it's not enough.
And residents like Denise would see the scope of assistance extended even beyond Cleburne, given through the Care for Humanity project.
Enjoyed all of it and getting to learn about the different countries and, seeing the outreach to others.
Brethren are so enthusiastic. They are so happy that they're able to participate in this activity. They don't mind the sacrifices simply because it is one of the teachings of our Almighty God that we uphold inside the Church of Christ.
But this help also was extended to charitable groups in the community through monetary donations given by the FYM Foundation. Recipients such as Cleburne Education Foundation, Cleburne Fire Department, Fortress, and Kaufman Leadership Academy.
And would like to thank Brother Eduardo Manalo, the Executive Minister of the Church of Christ, and also Brother Rosario Santos IV for this donation.
We chose Cleburne, Texas because of its present situation. At present, 13.78% of its people are living in a below poverty level. We are on the same battlefield now. People are experiencing hardship wherever they are. So when the administration decided that the Care for Humanity being conducted more diversified, we have seen a lot of people who are so happy, people who are so appreciative of what the Iglesia ni Cristo through the FYM Foundation have done for the sake of them.
I didn't know anything about Care for Humanity, but now I'm so glad I do know. It's an amazing organization, and we're so appreciative. And to hear the statistics that Brother Javier spoke about in Cleburne just proves that we are a very needy community, and we have lots of families who are struggling.
Love that there's a church that is so ingrained and knows in tune with what the neighborhood needs and what the city needs, and is so intentional about meeting those needs. I just think that's beautiful. You don't see that in a lot of churches, that are really out in their communities, and that really struck me today.
Even with representation from the city, the district attorney's office, Judge Robert Shaw, they felt gratitude that the Care for Humanity project reached Cleburne.
It's about being a citizen of this community and just appreciating, people coming in to help. A lot of churches and a lot of people throughout that try to help with, often not with as many resources as that y'all have access to. And so just when we get others, it just inspires. So thank you.
Iglesia ni Cristo, thank you so much for coming and serving the community of Cleburne. As a Cleburneite myself, I see that there are needs, and for you to be able to come from all over the United States to come and help serve people that you don't know, but following God's direction to come and serve and to love and give encouragement and to show light. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
But this wasn't the first time that the humanitarian efforts reached Cleburne. In 2021, part of the Worldwide Aid to Humanity event, residents also saw the response of the care for those in need, but stemming from the mandate of the executive minister to bring aid to Cleburne.
We praise our Almighty God for this Care for Humanity event here in the state of Texas. His love and concern to the church administration is truly evident. And because of the mandate of the executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, to the president of Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, Brother Rosario P. Santos IV, to further intensify humanitarian efforts like this, it goes to show that we are fulfilling what God commands to love thy neighbor and help them, especially in times of need.
Efforts even resulting in residents wanting to learn more about the Church of Christ, like Leah, and even as the school looks forward to holding Bible studies here in Cleburne.
One of the guests, her name is Leah, and did not want to leave until she actually spoke to a minister. And I was able to speak to her and told her a little bit about the church, gave her copies of our God's message, and informed her that starting this Wednesday, we will have Bible studies here.
And as now, the Care for Humanity has also introduced the true faith to residents in Cleburne. It also gives Theresa the hope to look forward for greater things for her school.
What we see is Christ's work. I mean, this is what he told us to do, is take care of each other and feed the poor. And so I definitely see God's work through the Church of Christ. I'm going to sleep a little easier tonight from that wonderful donation.
And with the assistance today, residents in Cleburne have felt the lessening of burden to their daily living. And for Theresa and her school, their doors remain open so that children and families in Cleburne can continue thriving, all due to the Care for Humanity project. Janina de la Paz Rufino for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In this modern day and age, the increasing use of technology is leading people to spend more time online than having physical interactions. In an effort to take a break from technology and connect instead with families and friends, the Iglesia ni Cristo members in the United Kingdom make a comeback 2 years since the pandemic, and they hold their annual Unity Games, promoting active play in a friendly and engaging environment. Here's our UK correspondent Janelle Ancasuga with the report.
Technology has taken over our modern world by storm. The internet has enabled us to communicate and stay in contact with people regardless of time and location. While it has its many advantages, it also has its downside. The digital age of smartphones have led more people to spend more time on social media than face-to-face conversation. In search of a more effective way to take a break from social media and spend more time with the family, here is how one community inspires to make a positive contribution.
For the first time in 3 years, the Iglesia ni Cristo's annual Unity Games is making a comeback. The nature and purposes of these games are to promote and encourage teamwork and sportsmanship, as well as an opportunity for some friends and family bonding. This annual event is a well-anticipated gathering of communities from all over the United Kingdom. The event started with the traditional parade of colours, a feature ceremony showcasing each area's colour coordinates. The coming together of participants from different regions of the United Kingdom, all ready to compete for the win.
But of course, more rewarding than winning is the social connection we gain from events like these. This is Janelle Kasuga, London Bureau, United Kingdom, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The agency said coming up, U.S. announces more efficient process to approve chemicals used in clean energy and electric vehicles. Messi says 2022 World Cup will surely be his last. And Asia's biggest film festival back in top form in 2022. Mata ng Agila International will be back after this short break.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
So sporty naman!
aliwalas naman talaga. May struggle din, di ba?
Ang tingin sa'yo, hindi ka marunong umarte. Isang araw, titingalain din ako.
Naku, may mga kwento sa kanilang dalawa ni Sanjo Marudo. Totoo ba? Galing sa nanay.
Mulat sila sa buhay ng may kaya. Binalanse ko pag ito lang alam ng mga bata, hindi mo maiwasan. Iba yung tingin nila sa mga mahirap. Ayokong mangyari yun kasi ako yun.
In the U.S., the government is taking steps to cut through the red tape when it comes to manufacturing electric vehicles. For the details, here's our U.S. correspondent, Melissa Potes.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency says it will make it easier to approve chemicals used to produce renewable energy in electric vehicles. The agency says it will streamline the risk assessment and mitigation measures process for a class of substances known as mixed metal oxides. They are chemicals used in batteries, semiconductors, solar panels, and wind turbines. They contain lithium, nickel, cobalt, and other metals. The agency says the more efficient process will allow manufacturers to bring the products to market sooner. Melissa Potes, Orlando, Florida, mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippine peso hits its 12th all-time low for the year as the exchange to the U.S. dollar sinks this Friday. Today's local currency skinned 26 pesos and 7 centavos to close 58 pesos and 92 centavos to a dollar from Thursday finish of 58 pesos and 65 centavos. Analysts say a factor that depreciated the peso was the 3 consecutive week increase of global crude oil prices having their limited sources. Compared to 2022's beginning, the local unit has depreciated by a total of 7 pesos and 92 centavos, or 15.5% from its close to 50 pesos and 99 centavos as of 2021 end.
A U.S. judge postponed the lawsuit in The Sage over Elon Musk's proposed $44 billion buyout of Twitter, giving both parties until October 28 to settle issues on the deal. Delaware Judge Kathleen McCormick warned Musk Twitter parties that if the transaction does not close by 5 p.m. on October 28, rescheduled trial dates for November 2022 may be expected. This is due to Musk's unpredictable decision in reviving the $44 billion takeover plan in buying Twitter, which halted the scheduled trial date on October 17 for Twitter's breach of contract against Musk. For its part, Twitter said it expects to close the buyout deal at $54.20 price that did not address Musk's demands over freezing the litigation. Legal briefs see this instance as a mutual distrust between both parties, seeing Musk with no intention of continuing the expedited trial, while seeing Twitter's intention to proceed with the litigation amidst Musk's U-turn decision to continue the Twitter's buyout deal. Authorities said one person died due to cardiac arrest when violent clashes near a soccer match outside Buenos Aires between Boca Juniors and Gimnasia y Esgrima spilled into the stadium and onto the pitch. Police fired rubber bullets and tear gas outside the Carmelo Zerillo Stadium in La Plata as they attempted to stop fans from pushing into the already crowded venue. The unrest continued inside, where shocked spectators were seen squeezing through fencing to escape the violence and get onto the field. Referee Hernan Mastrangelo said the game was suspended after 9 minutes until further notice due to lack of security guarantees. Several fans, including children being led or carried by adults, rushed to get out of the stands and onto the pitch, where people were seen sitting or lying down, apparently recovering from tear gas exposure. The deadly violence came just 5 days after a stampede in Indonesia prompted by police firing tear gas inside a packed stadium left at least 131 people dead, including 32 children. Argentina captain Lionel Messi claimed that the 2022 World Cup in Qatar will surely be the end of his career. The 35-year-old Messi, who is physically and mentally good this season, assured that this year's World Cup will be his last. In an interview in Paris, where Messi plays for Paris Saint-Germain, he admitted he is excited for the World Cup to start because it's a good moment to be against a well-equipped and strong group, and anything can happen. Messi started his international debut way back in 2005 as a substitute, but only lasted 2 minutes before establishing his name in the national team setup for his first World Cup in 2006.
Movie stars, directors, and fans descended on South Korea's port town of Busan as Asia's largest film festival returned at full power post-pandemic, with an Iranian film opening the event. Top Korean actors and Asian stars, including Hong Kong's legendary Tony Leung, are set to attend the Busan International Film Festival, which opened with a red carpet event and will run until October 14. But the festival is back with no restrictions for 2022, with high-profile guests such as Japan's famed filmmaker Hirokazu Koreeda flying in to discuss their latest projects. The festival will feature 243 movies from 71 countries, including 89 that will have their world premiere. Hosts South Korea are well represented, with K-pop megastar and actress Yoo joining Koreeda to discuss their film Broker, which was featured at the Cannes Film Festival earlier this year. South Korea has cemented its status as a global cultural powerhouse in recent years, thanks in part to the explosive success of the Oscar-winning film Parasite and the Netflix series Squid Game. Let's take a look back on some historical events that happened on this day, October 6. In 1846, Spanish Governor-General of the Philippines, Narciso Claveria, issued a decree against vagrants, asking provincial authorities to have idlers rounded up and, after questioning, to employ them in public works for a month and then send back to their hometowns. In 1952, Vladimir Putin, politician and former intelligence officer who has been serving as the president of Russia since 2012, was born. And in 1959, the far side of Moon was seen for the first time, courtesy of the USSR's Luna 3 space probe.
I know you're all excited to start your weekend, and here to help you start that is a quote from Frank Ocean, an American singer. And he said, "Work hard in silence. Let your success be the noise." I love that.
Yeah, you know how your good reputation precedes you, and that's a good thing, right?
And you know, when you are loud, when you're working, it just invites distraction in the form of naysayers, doubters, people who don't want you to succeed. So, you know, just work in silence.
Exactly. And in the end, let your success speak for you.
Nice. That's right. And that is a wrap for tonight's news. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to be partying loud to this weekend.
It's still Friday.
It's Friday.
Still Friday.
Have fun, you guys. But do catch the latest updates on our social media channels. Don't forget, I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richielago Flores, wishing everyone a great weekend. This is Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.